what are we going to do? We're going to do a circuit walk, as we said. So let me just load our spa race setup for now, which is still, evolving. And let's exit the pits, do a lap, an installation lap, as they say, and then after that, start walking around the circuit. So what can we say about Spa-Francorchamps? Honestly, guys, if you have never been at Spa, you have to go. You have to go. Hello, everybody on the chat. I see you guys, so many of you. Hello, everybody. So you have to go at least once in your lifetime and watch the 24 hours. And it is an amazing, amazing event. So I really wish for you that, next year you would be, or maybe even this year, who knows. It would be great to go to Spa. And you have to see how steep is the Eau Rouge here that we are climbing right now. I mean, I remember the guys saying that even if we put all 70 cars one on top of the other, we still won't make the actual height of Eau Rouge. It's unbelievable. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so let's start here. This is we will start our lap here. Starting, we will move on the left side of the road slowly. And at around here, after you can see the mouse, right, guys? Let me know if you can see the mouse. So let's see this. Okay, we arrive at this breaking point, and the 100 meter is where you want to brake. Now, depending on your FOV, on your car and all that stuff. I mean, what you can see outside the window. You usually want to start braking just when the 100 meter is inside here or appears on your side window. One of those. So as long as you lose the 100 meters or you see it appearing at at your side window, this is the correct place to start braking for T1 here. All right. So you brake as straight as possible, and you can see that this turn is really, really very particular. If you watch here, the camber of the road is pretty much almost flat, and then it goes down to the apex. So you have to be very careful to not go too wide over here, because you are actually going to end up very wide in the turn, and you won't be able to close the turn and get the apex properly. Now, there are a couple of ways to make this turn. The one is, go over this curb and go as inside as possible and make the most wide line. So you go from the outside. Let me show you, like this. All right. Let me show you. All right. So you go from the wide like this here. You go inside here. Okay. Over the curb completely, which seems flat, and then outside again over here. The other way to make the turn, and I'll tell you why, is to not go totally inside this curb, but just place the inner wheels here on top of the curb without, taking the whole car inside. Now, why you want to do this? Now, if you see, this curb, sorry about that, this curb seems flat, but in reality, it is a little bit bumpy. Okay. You can see the car here having issues with the bump. And you want to apply as much power as possible over the curb. This is where you apply the power for the exit. Now, if you apply the power and you are over the curb and you saw that the curb is bumpy, obviously you're going to have traction control enabled, because the wheels are going to hop over the curb. So if you stay just a tiny bit here, like this, so let me show you again where we are, okay, more or less here, you have better possibilities to apply all the power and not having the traction control, engage so much and influence that badly your acceleration. So you'll see many aliens, not going inside here, but staying just a tiny bit outside the curve. It's easier to say, it's easier to say, don't go over the curve, just stay a little bit wide, than to do, because when you are in the middle of the race and you are trying the best, it's very easy to turn a little bit more and go very very close to the wall here, and in your mind you think it's better, but in reality it pays to stay just a tiny bit wide. Okay, so uh, let's go ahead. Again, acceleration as wide as possible. Don't go extremely wide, because again, you're going to have issues with traction control. As you can see here, there is a sausage, let's say. So it's better that you do not place, it's good to place your car here, but it's not so good to go completely outside like this and into the this green fake grass, plastic grass, because obviously here the grip is very low. So you're going to have issues with traction. All right? Okay. So down we go. You have to change gear very fast over here, because it is quite a steep downhill. Up to fifth gear. Okay. Now, this is very, very important. You have to stay as wide as possible here on the right, and then cut and go completely over the curb over here, and try to stay as straight with your steering wheel as possible. Now, you have a couple of possibilities here depending on your car. Some cars like the Aston, that they don't have enough acceleration, because they are a bit low on torque and power. If you are good enough and your setup is good enough, then um, you can do the uphill flat out without raising anything. But to do it flat out, you have to turn a lot, and turning a lot scrubs speed. Now, it is important to manage uh, to be here like this. Okay, so you go straight like this here, and then you start to turning towards the right part of the road. Now, to turn properly, you need some extra steering angle. The more steering angle you need to do to go in, the more speed you're going to scrub, and you are also going into a very very steep uphill. So just to give you an idea how steep this is, I mean, look at that, guys. This is no exaggeration right now. Okay, this is exactly as it is. The camera looks flat on the horizon. Okay, and this is how this road goes up. It really is unbelievably steep. Okay, which means your car already is losing, speed from the steepness of the uphill. And if you are also, asking too much from the front tires and from all the tires, you're scrubbing, uh, and you're having issues. You're having issues. So, what to do? As I said, yes, you can make this completely flat out, but you can also raise your foot just a little bit. Let's see if we can do this without getting, disqualified. So when you are more or less over the curb, so you go over the curb here, you go outside the curb, you can raise your foot a little bit, and it's much easier to follow the line when you raise your foot. We're talking about just a tiny bit, and we will demonstrate this in a moment. So raise your foot a little bit, go in. You will need less steering wheel to do so, because you have more grip on your front tires by raising your foot, and then obviously full throttle again and go down. All right. So what to do next? As you arrive in here, you don't want to go too much over that curb. The correct use of that curb is more or less, like that. Okay, like that. Because as you can see, this curb starts completely flat. Okay, at the initial part of the curb, and then it becomes a step. So you don't want your car, going out over 200 kilometers per hour to get over those steps. It's gonna greatly destabilize your car. You're gonna have big issues. Best case scenario, you're gonna lose a ton of time. Worst case scenario, you're gonna crash very, very hard. Okay. Who's that? I don't know. Someone is on, but I cannot see it because I have to show you the mouse, so I cannot see who just came in. So, all right. So as I said, do not go a lot over the curb over there. Just use it just a tiny bit to rotate your car, okay? Afterwards, this is also very tricky. Now, you are at the top of the crest. At the top of the crest, you have over 200 kilometers per hour, 220 kilometers per hour, if everything is correct, 230 kilometers per hour, and your car starts to jump, actually. So if you go over this curb here, which looks innocent, right? In reality, it's not so innocent, okay? And you can see that this curb will make your car actually jump a little bit, okay? And those white parts here, again, they are not flat. They have, as you can see, a tiny step. This is correctly modeled. This is how those white lines are in reality. So you don't want really to jump over here with the car still turning a lot, trying to correct some bad line. You want to go over here with minimum steering, steering wheel angle. You want to have the car stable. You don't want to do, you don't want to force the car to do movements, because over here, if you try too hard, you're gonna again lose traction from the rear because you are, jumping practically, and it's going to be very, very hard to control, because again, as I said, over here, and you can see the car, jump going up here, and you see when I will go down how the car changes like this. You see, so you don't want going down from here to have the rear end um, dancing around, because the speed is way too high. You're gonna have lots of aero problems and stability problems like this. So just take it as smooth as possible. Exit here again as smooth as possible. Again, I remind you that the AstroTurf here, the fake grass, okay, has much, much less grip than proper asphalt. All right. So you want to arrive. What you want to do is, arrive here with the car almost already straight. This is your perfect situation. And as you go over the curb, you want to have more than 240 kilometers per hour, 242, 245. It depends on the car. So uh, it is one of the most difficult turns. It is a turn that you might want to compromise your setup choices, even if the setup behaves perfectly for the rest of the very long circuit. It makes no sense to arrive on the Eau Rouge and having issues controlling the car, because if you cannot control the car in Eau Rouge, then it doesn't matter if you are very fast at the rest of the circuit. So it is a really, really hard circuit here. All right, so let's move on. Remember here, when it rains, somewhere around here, there are rivets crossing the whole area. It is very, very hard. We can have a look at it, with raining conditions. So when you are right here, you normally need to, turn your car, because obviously the straight line moves towards the right. Okay, it is better that you have already made the turn before, and you arrive here with the car with your steering wheel almost straight. Modulate the pressure on the accelerator so that you're not accelerating too hard, and you go through that small river of water as straight as possible. All right. So let's go. Right, now we are approaching next turn. This is very easy. You have the 100-meter sign here, but even more importantly, you have the start of the curb, the outside curb right here. This is your braking, reference point. So you can either start the braking a little bit behind uh, the start of the curb if you want, to customize yourself to the braking zone. Just start a little bit behind, take it easy, go in, and as you get better and better and better driving the car, you can start braking exactly at the start. Some people even manage to brake just a tiny bit after the start of the curb. So depends also again on your car and your setup, of course. So brake again as straight as possible. Start going inside, and you want to position your car like that. You want to jump over this curb. You want to go up to the curb. But as you break down from sixth or fifth gear, depending on the car, you go down to third gear. All right. This is what I do usually, with this car at least. Now you want to go up like this into the green, and you want to position your car like that. But this must not be you shouldn't jump over this curb, the inner curb. You should go up and stay up there. Okay, so you go up and stay up like this for the whole turn. Okay, and while you're about to go down, then is when you gear down, one gear change down, a downshift to second gear for the next turn. Do not, usually I don't go down to second gear before this curb because it tends to, turn in the car way too much, unbalance my rear. So I go in third gear, up the curb, as soon as have the car a little bit stabilized, down a gear again, down the curb, second gear here like this, and then you go to the next curb. Now, to the next gear curb, the best way to get it is over the curb here like that. Okay. Now you can see it has lots of steps. So you don't want to go way too much on the inside like that. If you find yourself going here, you're gonna have issues. So at some point, sometimes it really is better to just send it full send and position your car like this. You can position your car in this way. Okay, this is sometimes better than staying on top of the most high steps of that curve. So normally you want to be like that, okay, to the middle of the curve. If you cannot make it, you see you're having issues, full send, go inside, put your inner wheels on the AstroTurf. Sometimes it is better. Okay. Now, how to exit this turn? Many people go as outside as possible, and I do not recommend this. I recommend to at the exit to try to stay here, sacrifice a little bit the exit of that turn, stay around here. You see, so I'm almost in the middle of the road, but not exactly. I'm in the right hand of the middle of the road. Okay, in the right hand of the middle of the road. Why is that? Because I want to have enough space to position myself again at as left as possible to get the next turn. Because the next turn has a downhill straight, and it's good to have as good exit as possible. So we sacrifice a little bit the middle turn of these three turns chicane, let's say, fast chicane. So good inner speed, sacrifice the second at the exit, okay, and then as good mid-turn speed and exit for the last third turn. For the last turn, it is very easy, and I'm doing it lots of times, to go up again here, and think you're doing it correctly. But in reality, the best way to do this turn, again, once more, is to not go completely up, but stay like this. This curve right here is not, uh, it has no steps, so it's very flat. But it is better if you don't go over the green. So stay right here. It will help your car turn, and then going down the curb, it will not upset the car too much, and it will give you good traction, and it won't make the your traction control engage and slow you down. All right. So let's go. Let's move forward. At the exit of this turn, you can go outside as almost as much as you can. Remember, again, AstroTurf means low grip, so don't overdo it. If you go that wide, you have to be already straight. Otherwise, if you arrive that wide and you are like this is going to be a disaster. Okay, so you have to be straight. Down the curb, and now it's very interesting. As we said, we are going downhill now. And again, the start of this outside curb is where you want to start braking. All right. Now, the braking zone for the next turn is particular. Um, you start braking at the start of the outside curb, okay? But then is where the magic happens, okay? Because normally what you should do is break down as straight as possible and then go inside the turn. Don't do this for this turn. It's a very particular turn. Again, very, very particular camber of the road, courtesy of laser scanning. And as in real life, you can see the videos and you can see why the real drivers go towards the turn. So you start braking and you don't go straight, but you start instantly moving and keep them straight towards the turn, like that, as if you have a very, very early apex at the start of the turn. So you go like this. You can see also lots of rubber in here when the circuit is optimum. So you want to be pretty much here turning, okay? And then once you arrive here, you are in second gear. You can stay on the turn a little bit more, on the brakes a little bit more, but very, very low brake force, like something like that, to help the car turn in. And you can help yourself with a little bit extra steering wheel. Now, I know I have always said do not overdo it, but in this turn, because of the amazing camber of the road, which is like that, you can see here again how the road is so strange. You see the road goes downhill here while it's almost flat outside. It goes downhill here, okay? So once you are here, you can squeeze a little bit of extra grip by asking from your tires a little bit extra lateral grip to stay as close at the inner curb as possible. Okay, don't go over it because you can see there is grass over it, but stay as close as possible. Again, on the race, do not overdo it, because as long as you overdo it on the race, at some point you're going to have lots of tearing problems. But stay here. Don't take the early apex and then go wide, because if you go wide outside, then there is no way to get the car in again. You have to raise your foot a lot. You have to slow down the speed a lot to get back into the correct trajectory. So stay as close as possible. Some of the very, very good drivers manage to do a tiny bit of early apex. So they do an early apex around here and then go just a tiny bit wide, something like that, and then they return. Okay. But if you cannot do this, stay as close as possible to the inner curb. That's what you have to do. Be patient. Be patient. It's a very, very long turn. Okay. So be as patient as possible. You can start seeing, when you see that part of the road, you can start applying gently the accelerator. Don't go like crazy 100% of the accelerator over here, because either you're going to lose the rear end, or you're going to have massive amounts of understeer and end up very, very wide and outside the road, possibly. So squeeze the accelerator, be patient, be gentle with the accelerator. You want to slowly squeeze, and as you do this, you'll notice that the car is rotating properly without losing traction. This is the correct way to do it, and you will feel that the more gently you squeeze on the accelerator, the more the car follows your correct line, and you will feel more confident to give it more and more accelerator like this. And before even exiting the turn, somewhere around here, you are already going to be 100% of the accelerator. But if you do it very aggressively, you are either going to be fighting, oversteering more or less here, and you'll be losing, traction, or you're gonna end up in understeer way, way outside here. So you don't want to do that. All right. So, uh, yeah. So exit of the turn. I end up usually around here. At least for me, every time I end up on the curb here, it means that I have mistaken and I had way too much understeer, and usually I'm losing time. So my advice is, do not overdo it. Do not go that far on the left side. Thanks again for the follow. Do not go that far on the left side, because you're gonna have issues. So go a little bit outside, but do not overdo it, because you're gonna need to turn back at the right hand of the road as fast as possible. Now, here's a pretty tricky situation. This is a typical turn that everybody thinks that, yeah, I could, brake a little bit later and still make the turn, but every time it turns out to be a bad mistake. So whatever your mind plays tricks with you and tells you, you can brake a little bit, later, you can do it, a tiny bit later. Well, don't do it. Don't do it. I usually do this. It's one of my mistakes. And every time I try to brake just a little bit later, um, I end up going wide and don't be able to make the turn properly. Uh, this end of the green wall here is a good indication. You can use it as a reference point, but it really depends where you are. It's a really hard track here. It's difficult to find any reference points, so it needs some practice. If you guys have a better solution on the chat, please let me know. Please let know also the other guys. And it is a really, really hard turn. So again, braking straight, third gear, go in, and again once more. You don't want. It's easy to go up this turn, up this curb a lot. It's very easy to go up this curb like this, but in reality, you want to be subtle. You want to be again somewhere around here, because going way too much up there, it's going to make your car jump a little bit, and you're gonna lose a tiny bit of time. It's better if you just uh, lick the curb, as we say. Just go up the curb, but not too much. Okay, so down here, again, very, very difficult turn. You have to just nail the trajectory here. There's not much I can do. Just practice, practice, practice again. Uh, you don't want to end up very wide over here. It's one of the most difficult turns, not to actually stay on the road, because it's not like a Rouge, but it's one of the most difficult turns to take it perfectly and gain time. It's really hard. Right. So let's go down. Again, downhill. And we approach one of the fastest turns in fourth gear. So this is your first indication. This orange door of the fence, opening of the fence. Thanks, Predator 458. So this orange to red, orangish door on the fence is your first indicator that after that you have to take care where to stop. Usually I start braking uh, after this, way after this, but before the next one. So you can see as we go forward here, there is another one. Okay, so somewhere around here, I will tap the brakes, as we say, and try to slow the speed. Some people are brave enough, good enough, set up enough, whatever enough, and they brake right on this second opening. I can't. I can't. And sometimes when I'm doing this, um, sometimes I can make the turn. Most of the times I just end up wide. I'm just not good enough to do it over here. So before this, after the first one, and before this. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Danny F88, and thank you, Kiryu Henki, for the follow. So I will just brake just before this opening, fourth gear, okay, and try to get off the brakes soon enough, or stay very very slightly on the brakes. The It is very very important to go inside the turn and have some rotation to the car, not too much, not too much, because it's a very fast bend, and too much rotation will unbalance the car. You're going to have big issues controlling. But it is good to not have understeer right here, because you're going to end up very wide. You want to be in a situation that uh, more or less here, when you see the green path of the curb, or when the billboard here is close to going away, you want to be already on the accelerator. You want to accelerate. Thanks, Ilupi, and thanks, Mephisto, for the follow. So you want to accelerate like that, and you want to be in fourth gear accelerating. Don't end too wide over here. The narrow your line here, the better it's going to be for the next one. So if you end up like this, you're gonna have troubles, because obviously the curb has less grip, and you're gonna have troubles, you know, trying to force the front of the car to go in for the next turn. And it is important to go in for the next turn full throttle, flat out. If you won't be able to do this, you're going to lose a lot of time. So you want to find yourself more or less, like this. So just before touching the outside curb. And then if you do that, then the next turn, this one, is much easier. It's flat out. It's no problem at all. If you go and end up outside on the curb, then this turn is not so easy to go flat out, especially with the cars that they are mid-engine or rear engine, because you're going to have lots of weight and traction on the rear wheels, a light front end, and it's going to be very, very difficult to, move the front of the car inside and make the next turn flat out. All right? So if you have managed to, bring your car like this, then you have no issues at all. Flat out at the exit, and then straight to the left side of the road for the next very, very interesting turns. Right, so here, where do we brake? We brake instantly underneath this billboard thing, enormous. Some people use the shadow. It is true that being on top of the road, the shadow will always be down, even when the sun will be very low. But as usually, don't use the shadow, because what is going to happen if it is cloudy? So there won't be any shadow at all. So don't do this. Some people that are really really good manage to brake after this billboard and before the start of the curb. I've seen people also braking just at the start of the curb. It takes tons and tons of proper skill. So I would just go underneath. You can see it here again. Sorry about that. You can see it here again. Just go underneath the billboard and start braking just before the start of the curb. And now it gets the tricky stuff. You have to be very precise here. You have to turn in release the uh, brake pressure, uh, because if you're still staying on the brakes while you are going over the curb like that, it's very easy to unsettle the car and have oversteer. Or some people, brake too much and go just wide. I release the pressure. I've seen aliens to keep just a tiny bit of pressure on the brakes. It is good, if you can do it, but it takes amazing, delicacy on your left or right foot, whatever you use for braking. So it's very hard. I find it easier, at least for racing. Just release the brake pressure once you have finished your braking. Go over the curb like this and stay on the curb. Again, don't jump on the curb, but go over the curb and stay on the curb for the whole turn like that. The best thing is when you are start feeling the rumble from the cobblestone, whatever it is, this thing, you will feel the rumble. This is a satisfaction of, okay, I'm having my car positioned properly over that. So stay over there, and as the rumble finishes, like that, just go down. Don't let the car slide way too much. Remain more or less at the center of the road. And once more, then, all this I'm doing it in third gear. Once more, again, over here on top of the curb, rumble strip, some vibrations, gently on the accelerator, outside. Don't go way too much outside. If you are arriving like that, again, it's once more the fake green grass, and you're gonna have big issues of handling, traction, grip, everything. So make sure that you arrive over here like this. Okay, this is perfect. Stay on third gear. With most of the car, you don't have to go up one gear, just stay in third gear. Keep it up almost to the limiter, or even hit the limiter for just a second, and end up here again. Start of the curb, start braking, okay, at the start of the curb, down to second gear. Now this is a very, very important turn, because you really have to nail the entrance and the exit, because after it we have a long straight, another turn that you could make it flat out, and we have a very long straight, so you're gonna gain a lot of time. Now, very hard braking, second gear. Now I've noticed that it is very, very important here, as you turn in, to modulate very, very, very carefully the brake pressure, because if you keep on braking way too much, you are, unmistakably going to finish out wide with tons of understeer. If you release your brake way too much, you're gonna have other issues of balance, maybe understeer, maybe oversteer, depending on how much speed you're carrying. You need to carry just the right amount of speed, all right? Release just a tiny bit the braking force. Second gear, the car should rotate and enter if you are releasing the braking force properly. Don't jump over the curb too much. You don't want this to happen. And go on the accelerator as soon as possible, making sure that you don't end up too wide at the exit. So the more you can rotate the car before, and the sooner you go on the accelerator, you're gonna end up accelerating here much sooner and much better. And now you are approaching this very, very strange bend. Now this is all about the line. If you make it properly, if the line is correct, you can, and your setup helps you, of course, and your tires and everything, you can do this turn flat out. But even if you cannot take it flat out, there is still a tiny little bit of trick you can do, and gives you some extra speed, instead of, oh, I'm ending up wide, what I have to do, just raise your foot and wait. So, well, first of all, the line has to be one that brings the car over here, again, touching the curb. Not too much over the curb, not down under the curb, just touching the curb the correct amount. If you touch the curb here in a position like this, okay, the car will raise the front end up, and will raise the rear end, and it will get a kind of torque vectoring, because the outside uh, rear wheel is going to push the car and will going to rotate it properly, and that will help you get out flat out. Now, this doesn't happen always, unfortunately, except if you're an alien. So, what to do if whatever you have done here is correct, but again, you end up like this and you see that you're going to end up wide? So, here's what to do. Instead of raising your foot from the accelerator and waiting that the front end is going to bite and then go in, you can telegraph with your accelerator, right? You can telegraph with it. So you are like here, flat out like this, okay? And you see that you're not gonna make it. Instead of raising and waiting and then going back again, do this. You just pop, and then if you need a second one, but very fast. So pop, pop, that's it. That's all you need to do. You won't notice while doing it the car changing direction, but you keep on turning like this. Do a couple of telegraph movements with your accelerator. Usually, just one is all that you need, and just keep on accelerating instantly. Uh, Instantly, you won't feel any rotation, but just after a fraction of a second, you're gonna see the car rotating. This is gonna be really interesting to watch. So we will see that in a minute, while we're trying to do some fast laps. So again, when you are on the apex, do it before the apex, on the apex, or just after the apex, but you still have to do it on the apex. So you still have to understand if you're going to make it or not. If you're trying to do this at the exit, then it's no use. But if you're on the apex, on the curb, and you see that my line is not correctly, don't raise your foot and wait. Do the telegraph. So full throttle like that, up, down. That's it, up, down. Very, very fast. And don't do anything else with your turn, with your steering wheel. Just keep on doing what you're doing. So, next turn, you should be able to make it flat. You can go a little bit on the outside, like I did here. Okay. Remember again, the green paint part of the asphalt is much slippier. It's slidey. You're going to slide. So remember this. And remember this why? Because you don't want to go into the turn at the correct position, but just a tiny bit before that. You want to anticipate, because when you're going to turn, you're going to have instantly some understeer because of the slippery painted surface of the asphalt. So you want to anticipate just a tiny bit like this, okay? And then slowly you're going to end up into the rubber place of the asphalt. You're going to have enough grip. The best way is just to touch the inside curb like this. And obviously, don't turn too much here, because you don't want to scrub lots of speed. Uh, Also, the best way is do not stay on the outside curb too much. Now, this outside curb has some vibrations, and you can feel it also on the wheel, because they are not actually steps, but you can see here there are these things. There are very, very smooth steps. Okay. Now those very smooth steps are going. You are traveling at 250 kilometers per hour, 255 kilometers per hour, right? So every hit on the tires make the tire more rolling resistance. At that speed, every tiny raise of the rolling resistance will make your car slow down. So you don't want to stay on top of those curbs, again, courtesy of laser scanning, because otherwise you don't know that it is like that. You don't want to stay over this curb a lot, uh, because if you do so, this kind of curb, it's going to scrub you 1 or 2 kilometers per hour, and at that high speed you really want as much keeping your top speed as possible. So don't go over here way too much. It's even better if you just go over here and then as fast as possible, or just a little bit and then go out again. All right. because otherwise you're gonna, sometimes you cannot, obviously, um, you cannot avoid it, but just know that this is what happens. Also, if you cannot avoid it, it's better to stay on the curb with your steering wheel straight and not try, to do strange things, because you, as I said, you are going 250 kilometers per hour. Let me show you again what that means. We've talked about that in a different walkthrough, and uh, I won't say it. I won't say it. I won't say it. We just got disqualified for going backwards. Okay, that's it. So let's leave the car there for a moment. Go outside. Sorry. So as I said, here, you are going to arrive into this curb at over 250 kilometers per hour. Uh, the curb has those gentle steps. It has this metal strip here, and it has the fake grass here. So all of that stuff is slippery, more slippery, death, because you are arriving at 250. So if you are arriving here like this, okay, and you're trying to control the car, as soon as you get over here, you're gonna have problems. Here you're gonna have even more problems, and here you're gonna die. So if you can avoid it to gain some speed, that's good. If you cannot avoid it, make your steering wheel angle proper. Just go over it, make your car go over it straight, and don't think a lot about it. You're racing, just try to maintain your car safe. So do not overdo it. All right? Okay. Okay, so outside from that last turn, we are approaching the famous bus stop. Now, where to brake for the bus stop? Uh, we have the 150 meters here and this orange opening. Okay. Now you can brake around here, or you can, put this white line on the asphalt as your reference point. You go over the white line besides the 150 meters, and you brake there. Now, I usually tend to arrive here more or less at the middle of the road, right? More or less at the middle of the road. And you start, braking, as we said, after the white line on the asphalt. Assetto Zeus team, we'll talk about that. All right. And brake straight and point here. So brake straight, going towards the outside. Okay, just don't try to be here like that. Make sudden moves to be here like that. Doesn't really. It's not necessary. Brake at the middle of the road, but brake in a straight line that slowly moves you around here. So at the end of the braking, you end up as wide as possible, like this. Okay. So first gear down into the curb. Not much to talk about that. It's a very slow curve. Modulate properly. Go up here as much as you can. Don't go over the sausage. So you want to end up with your. You want to end up over the. Oops, it's so fast. Okay, okay. So you want to end up over the steps. Doesn't matter, because right here we are just trying to slow down the car, arriving from a very, very fast straight turns, everything. We are very fast, so just over here, but don't go over the big sausage, because this is going to unsettle a lot your car. Just go over the steps like this. Try to stay again more or less at the middle of the road. And then it is very important to go as fast as soon as possible on the accelerator on this second part, modulating the accelerator properly to not have a power oversteer, to not slide around, to not go into understeer. This is just a hard, slow turn. You have to make, some practice here and take it as soon as possible, but you have to be, accelerating slightly, gently before the apex, and then you have to be over here like this and already instantly accelerating. Okay, the more you lose here, and the more you're gonna see your delta going down. And that, my friends, is a full circuit walk at Spa.